Hello everybody, it's vanburman here. Welcome to my full finished game review for Clair Obscur Expedition 33. I've got to say, really good game, and I'm trying to work out how to temper the huge amounts of enthusiasm that I want to give you in this video. TLDR, it's really, really good. If you're a big fan of JRPGs or even RPGs in general, absolutely worth trying out, see if you like it, see if you can get to grips with the type of battle system and that kind of thing. But yeah, story-wise, gameplay-wise, it's up there. It's really, really good. So if you want to take nothing else away from it, the only thing I can probably say, asterisks on this, but it's definitely one of the best RPGs I've played in the last 25 years, or JRPGs. Definitely one of the best JRPGs, and also one of the best RPGs. But I do want to make that differentiation because it is a JRPG in pretty much all facets. It's got all the telltale signs are there almost exclusively, and yeah, it definitely scratches that itch, so to speak. So just want to put that right out there. You don't need to watch any more of the video. That will do. But for those of you that are interested in sticking through to the rest of the video, I do want to say before I begin getting into that, I do want to dedicate this video to my good friend Leonie. It feels as though I am dedicating videos more and more frequently these days. So yes, I'll leave it there. But hope you enjoy this one. So, Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Other than me, I'm just going to call it Expedition 33 from now on, just for brevity's sake. Oh, where do I begin? So, I've kind of been reading up a little bit around the game and the development studio and that kind of thing. Not too much, because definitely didn't want to spoil anything. The day that I'm recording this bit here is the day that I've also finished it. I don't have a huge amount of footage, so I'm going to be inserting that over this at various points when I'm talking about things. And yeah, I think I'm also sat down as well, rather than in my usual stood up position in some costume or with some lighting or something. But I don't know why, but this feels like a far more serious review that I was serious in vibes than I was necessarily expecting when I was thinking about putting this together. I think it makes more sense to be sat down and to, in particular, have a few bits up on the screen that I can talk you through to make sure I'm getting my information correct, which is a level of diligence that isn't normally seen on this channel. So you may need to bear with me through this one. So I picked up the game on release. I've been playing it on and off. I played it quite a bit on the Steam Deck, and I managed to, in the end, find settings and things that I was comfortable with, because it is quite difficult on the Steam Deck with how the battle system goes and that kind of thing. But I played a lot of it on there, a really decent amount. I did all the end game stuff when I got back, because I've been away on vacation for a couple of weeks, and I found it much easier to play on the PC. It's definitely more of a big screen experience. Not that you can't do it on the Steam Deck, and if that's how you primarily play these things, then that will be fine, of course. But yes, just to let you know, frame rate and performance will directly correlate to the enjoyment that you will have. I think that's probably fair to say for a lot of games, but also this one as well. We're utilising the Unreal Engine 5. I don't know, I was wanting to say Unreal 5 engine, but anyway, I digress, which a lot of games I've played recently have used. It seems to be really popular. It's good to see that it's, not that I wouldn't think it wouldn't be, but that it's versatile enough to make things like this JRPG, for example. And next, I want to talk about the music, but I guess I do want to just mention that probably one of the things that, and this is not just a purely Expedition 33 issue, is that sometimes in the Unreal Engine environment figures, I don't know what it is about the facial structure and stuff, but it's not Uncanny Valley, it's different. It's where characters kind of look a bit dead behind the eyes, or they kind of look a little bit figurine-esque. Is that Uncanny Valley? I'm not sure. No, I don't think it is. Definitely not, because it doesn't feel like it's too real. It's the opposite, actually. It takes you out of it slightly. which for some parts of this game aesthetically work really well. And then for other parts, it's like need to be showing a bit more emotion with your eyes at this point. But that would be completely nitpicking and actually very, very funny, because I went to the US and this is a total tangent. I went to the US and I picked up a copy of Final Fantasy X on the PS2, and it has a totally different case. It's actually up there. I should have got it down, really. But on the back, one of the things that I don't know if I'm going to quote it word for word now, but one of the things that they really advertise is the real-time facial animations and that kind of thing. And actually, that game does it really well within the cutscenes, and that's what it's trying to sell it as. Whereas modern games nowadays are effectively cutscenes the whole time. Asterisks. But yeah, not quite. But yeah, so I think that's probably really the only area that I think could be improved. I had maybe some small issues with, there was some English grammar that, once again, it's a real nitpicking, English grammar that was not quite correct for the sentence. And then one thing that took me out of the immersion when you think about the world consequences right towards the end of the game. Basically, there's a load of journals in the game that you find from previous expeditions, that should not be a spoiler. This is Expedition 33. It is probably, safe to assume there were other ones if this is the 33rd. And yeah, basically the one that you get, or the last numbered one that you get, kind of really doesn't make that much sense for the world that you've been put into. Or at least it's not explained alongside. It feels like totally detached, really, from the rest of the game and how those journals add into the world building. Because it doesn't actually add anything. It's there to be, I don't know, different, weird, maybe. Yeah, I'm not really sure if it's a reference to something. I'm not really sure what it's a reference to. So yeah, that's probably not enough. It's not enough for me to want to mark it down, but it is enough where I've really raised an eyebrow as thinking, what on earth are we doing here? Why? In a game that, explores elements of kind of multi-universal type ideas. And I really want to stick away from spoilers for this one, because I want people to, hopefully you just listen to the TLDR and you're already downloading it now, not watching this video. But if you are still watching this video, I really want to try and portray my feelings without giving away any spoilers about the story, really, whatsoever. I think that's probably for another time in the future. Maybe if I ever do like a full playthrough of the game in some years' times, which is probably fairly likely considering how high it is up on my list. So I should probably wait until the end to do the scoring, but I have a lot to mention around there. In terms of looking at the studio, so the creative art director is Guillaume Brochet? I don't know. Lost all of my French accent. But yeah, so he used to work for Ubisoft. He's worked on one of the Ghost Recons and something else. Probably been involved in some other games as well, just maybe not credited for it. But interesting that this has come out of Ubisoft, and one of the games that is sort of lower down my JRPG list but still very high up is Child of Light. And I had, for the longest time, before even knowing that the guy worked for Ubisoft, I thought, surely this guy's worked on Child of Light then. But no, apparently not. That would have been very interesting. It probably shouldn't come as any surprise whatsoever to tell you that the game is very French, which is very, very interesting, because it's been quite a while since I played a game that's obviously so heavily French inspired. And for it to be a JRPG that is so French is really interesting. And actually just fun and unique and quite quirky as well. But you probably noticed that it's not called the Eiffel Tower, but there is a big tower in the game that looks quite like the Eiffel Tower, which is like, a lot of the game is visually very impressive, of course. But yeah, that is one of the more standout elements within the actual game. That, and then the monolith, you're sort of got your world is sort of bookended by these two hulking structures that are very, very different, and symbolize and mean very different things as well. So, which you'll find a lot of in this game, which I really like, by the way. Guillaume, anyway, has listed on his. I've got it up now, anyway. But his favorite games: Persona 3. I've not played Persona 3, but I have played Shin Megami Tensei 3, and very much enjoyed that. Devil May Cry, which I have played. Demons, Souls, Journey. Can't remember which one Journey is, and Final Fantasy 8. So Final Fantasy 8 being up there is very interesting. Actually, there are a couple of references to Final Fantasy 8 within the narrative of the story, kind of, more like just little calls, but very subtle. So it's not like a Melancholy Republic type of thing where they're not particularly well hidden necessarily. But yeah, they are very much in there. You can tell, and even just some things like kind of how the camera angle is portrayed, and the music and the lighting, and how your party runs into the scene. It's very, very Final Fantasy VIII reminiscent. And I'm sure that that's not done on purpose. Maybe a happy coincidence, but yeah, really, really good. You can tell that it has that essence. There are some bits around it. Even the kind of main character's weapons being a separate sword and gun. I mean, kind of gunbladey. I know it's like swashbuckler pirate type of thing as well. So, but they're all of the same ilk, kind of. There's no actual real pure gunblade though, unfortunately. Is that a spoiler? No, probably not. And the music is, yeah, I've already mentioned the music, but the music's really good. Some of the main tracks in the game are incredible and actually worth, if you like it that much, which I will be doing now, actually, worth buying the soundtrack for the game because some of the tracks are just great by themselves. I think probably, I don't know if I have heard every single track because I didn't unlock all the tracks during the game, but may have probably heard all of them because I've beaten all the optional bosses and been to every area. Just missed some stuff, obviously. Oh no, not a lot. And yeah, there weren't many where I thought, there was maybe one or two where I was I get what they're going for here. I'm not really that keen on this particular track. But the rest of them, absolute fire, basically. Really good. Particularly for the type of, they're as a soundtrack as a whole, it feels like it's going to be up there with the Final Fantasy 7, 8, 9, 10 soundtrack. So, Final Fantasy 4 as well. No, to be fair, there's a lot of good Final Fantasy soundtracks. It's not just Final Fantasy. I'm not trying to compare this to Final Fantasy, but I'm making the Final Fantasy 8 comparison because I guess that is probably the Final Fantasy aspect is one of the things that I am, if I am known for anything, I would be most known for. That and the Steam Deck, which I've covered already. So yeah, so you can see where those influences come in to play in this particular game. So I need to actually talk about some stuff, some spoiler-free stuff, really. And I guess we'll start with the battle system. It's a turn-based system that, on the face of it, you would kind of think looks a bit like Final Fantasy X. And it is in a sense because, that's not just Final Fantasy X that does this, I know, but you kind of have your turn order and you can do things to manipulate that, although they're within battle, it kind of doesn't happen all that often, I suppose, whereas in Final Fantasy X, it was definitely a thing where you would actively influence potentially most battles, the turn order. But no, in this one, it's very much almost pre-set up beforehand. So you have these abilities. I want to say it's kind of like Final Fantasy IX's system in a way, where you have AP, which I believe are ability points, but it just says AP all the time. I'm sure it is written somewhere. Probably is ability points. That you get through leveling up or finding colours of Lumia, I think that's what they're called, or Lumina, that you can put onto your characters in order to give them more... AP's different. Yes, so there's Lumina and then there's AP. AP's in the battle and your skills take up AP. That's a bit more straightforward. The Lumina is like a number, kind of similar to Final Fantasy IX, where you can give yourself pre-status effects. So haste, or it's called rush in this game. You can have auto rush, auto haste, auto shell, that kind of thing. But they have it's really broad, the level of abilities. Some of them are constantly set your maximum health to 1, for example. Now you might think, Maximum health of 1. That doesn't sound great. But if you link multiple of these, they're called pictos, together, then you can build a strategy around your team or that one character that allows you to best utilize them. And there might well be, I'm not saying anything, but there might well be reasons that you might want your character to only have 1 HP. I don't know. Maybe you can deal damage on death, and then maybe you can bring them back to life the first time they die. I don't know. Maybe. Who knows? Or you can do extra damage at full health. Who knows? Yeah, all that sort of stuff is in there, and I would say it's fairly well balanced. Although, if we're talking more broadly, because, and I guess this is the same with a lot of JRPGs anyway, so it's not a criticism for Expedition 33 uniquely, but I went and did the quote unquote super bosses before I went and did the main story boss, and obviously the super boss is more difficult. So if you do that before you do the final stretch of the game, then it is probably fairly likely to assume that last part of the game is going to be quite easy by the time you have done all of the optional fights. And that's what happened. But it's just worth noting that if you I mean, there's no option. I guess you could go roll back a save, right, and then go back and do it after. But yeah, there's no option to, or is that a spoiler? I don't know. No option to still be in the world after the story ends. I don't think that's really a spoiler. I think that's expected. It's kind of the exception if it's the other way around sometimes. I don't know. Anyway, I've said it now. So yes, that becomes, like I say, fairly trivial once you've set up strategies to do a huge amounts of damage. And yeah. Oh, yeah. And the other thing, I guess, the end game stuff is kind of locked off from you almost kind of artificially. So there is a damage limit of 9,999. That's pretty well established, I suppose. And in the same vein as this is the best way of describing it. In the same way as Final Fantasy X, there are ways that you can do more than the max damage. And you only get that ability at some point during the game, which, if you were to fight enemies that are past that point earlier, you might have a difficult time when you can only do 9,999 points of damage. So, Dark Aeons, Final Fantasy X. Need I say any more? And if I do, well, you'll have to buy the game and find out for yourself, basically, because it is a requirement to finish the game, getting past that point. So, for the story element and for the optional stuff, that is an absolute requirement. And I think, like I say, and it feels kind of, at the time, it felt kind of artificial. Like, it is possible to still beat some of these enemies with only doing that max damage, but it's fair to say it's going to take you a while. You're going to have some perseverance. And I think that is actually one of the nice things about how the battle system works, is that if you do have pure perseverance, reaction skills, and the right temperament, you can beat any enemy no matter what level, what skills, anything, but pretty much. But yeah, I don't recommend it though. It's quite a slog when you find yourself in those situations, which I have done once or twice in this particular game. But I think that's okay because I learned from it. I learned the way the game kind of wants me to play. So yeah, effectively, when you start your turn, you get your AP, and lots of this stuff has asterisks on because, as mentioned before, the pictos that you choose to equip before the fight, I should say, they will determine what kind of strategy you're going for, how much AP you have available, how much it refills, what extra status effects you do, that kind of thing. But effectively, you get the option of a normal attack, which will be, I think you can maybe get up to 4 hits. I can't remember now, but we'll do like a single attack. Or you can do a free aim shot, which is where all characters have a gun or ability to fire, I guess. I don't really know what that's all about, but yeah, either like shoot out of the rapier, or shoot from the gun, or shoot from the stick, or shoot out of the hands, or whatever the last one is. And that is very good situationally. So some enemies have very obvious weak spots that you can aim for, and then you may have abilities that allow you to get +2 AP when you damage an enemy's weak spot, for example. So that might be worth doing in order to help refill your AP. They usually do quite a lot of damage to the enemies as well. Some enemies can only be taken down with 3 shots, and you get a reticule on the screen, and you can choose where you shoot that thing. So if there's a glowing, great big weak spot in the face, aim for the face. If you need to aim for one of the limbs, for example, because that either has something shiny on it or it looks like it might be like a bomb or something like that, then you might want to aim that bit as well. So, and you can have your 3 shots do lots of different things, like apply fire, increase the stagger. I call it stagger, but it's break damage. And when the bar becomes full, the gold bar, they then stagger, a la Final Fantasy 13, although with the exception of maybe 1 or 2 fights, is not required to beat every single fight Final Fantasy 13, right? Okay, it's there as an optional strategy. Yeah. Right, good. Got that out of the way. But it's not anything new since Final Fantasy 13 about doing that. So I don't mind having it in there. I like that it's there as an optional strategy and can really help you with some battles. Some of them are kind of more designed to be set up around trying to break the enemies and then be able to do a lot of damage to them because they naturally have really high defense. But I don't mind that occasionally, just not all the time. So, yeah. So there's, like I say, you probably gather from that and then abilities on top. There's some synergies you build between characters, one to like mark or burn a character, and then an enemy, and then your next character may have a multiplier that allows them to double that amount of burn damage that enemy has, or whatever it is. But yeah, lots of synergy, lots of different strategies to mess around with. I think probably people may sort of fall into, by the end game, the main 2 or 3 kind of obvious strategies that are there. But it gives you the freedom to play around, and I'm sure that I haven't watched anyone else's battle gameplay, by the way, but I'm sure there are lots of really fun and unique ways of almost breaking the game. I think they actually had to patch out a few, or not patch out, but nerf a few abilities because people were exploiting them too much, for example, which is great. So what can I tell you about the story? Because I do want to tell you about the story. I'm just saying, oh, by the way, it's great. Go and experience it. How can I sell it better than the game? I don't think I can better than the trailers and that kind of thing. But I'll give you my broad overview of the early part of the game. And that is that there is this monolith in the background over the horizon, far away from this French city that looks a little bit like Paris because the Eiffel Tower's there. Although it's not called the Eiffel Tower. Don't call it the Eiffel Tower for copyright reasons or trademark reasons or something. And every year, the number on the monolith goes down by 1. There's a mysterious paintress that paints a new number. So when we start the game, it's at number 34, and then it goes down to number 33, which would unfortunately mean when she painted that 33, I would also grammage. So grammage is I don't actually know what it means in French, if it is a French word, so that's interesting. But effectively, the people who are of that age grammage and they fade away. They tend to, there's this whole tradition in Luminaire, which is the main town, that they get given wreaths of white and red flowers or petals. There must be flowers, right? But then have petals. And when people disappear, the petals fly off. And I guess it's kind of like symbolic to show that person has faded away. A la kind of Final Fantasy X, I suppose. But still. Yes. So when the new number 33 goes up, we see the impact of what it looks like for that number to go up again. And then we join as the main character, or one of the main characters, Gustav, in joining Expedition 33. And we sort of get to know about his motivations for wanting to do so, why it's important, and kind of, building that story up about how our Expedition 33 is going to go. And without too many spoilers, it goes pretty downhill pretty quick and it gets pretty dark real quick as well. I'm not sure what the game is rated to. I have got the page up, so it is an 18. That makes perfect sense. I'm not going to say anything more, but use your imagination. So, yeah, it's definitely a game for adults. Absolutely. So, yes. And we go from there. And our aim is to stop the paintress from painting that next number and thereby saving the people of Luminaire and ensuring the future for Gustave's apprentices and all the children and younger people within the city. As you can imagine, there's probably not, if you're at 33, there's probably not a huge amount of years kind of left for people to be born and come into the world. Like if someone was born in the 33 year, by the time it's down to 16, they're going to be grand marche, aren't they? So, and they would be 16 or 16, 17. But yeah, or 17 and 16, yeah. But still, the point is that, yeah, that's quite interesting from that point of view of there being like this finality to how the residents of Luminaire approach their lives. And you do come across that from people who are part of the expedition and people in the city and that kind of thing. And it's like kind of sold early on as though the majority of people have almost given up on the expeditions. 67 gone before, and well, it wouldn't be 67, would it be 66 before the 67th? I digress. Point is that yeah, they do a very good job of world building, and because you've got that kind of battle system, party system, and like a really good premise, actually. Like I was very determined to want to get in there and like stop this paintress from him. And then obviously, in the end, things are very different. But I will leave. I don't even think you could. I think the thing about it is, based on purely on that information, you couldn't really know where the game will go. You'd have to have such like abstract, out there kind of thinking to work out how it might transpire. And I think that's really great. Like, I don't want to know how these games are going to go just by watching the trailer or playing the first 10 minutes. I'm always looking, because there is always that big, that either that twist or that amendment or that change of allegiance or whatever it happens to be, right? And it gets you thinking some of the things I thought about. Like, I wonder if the people who are vanished are still around somewhere else, or if they've been like moved to safety or something like that, because there was this big fracture that tore up the world, and this bit of Luminaire is the bit that was left inhabited effectively by humans. So yeah, you kind of like start to think about that, and it's good because that's the kind of mystery you want as you go through the game. And then you also kind of learn as you go through not to take everyone at face value as well, which is, once again, like really good, really intriguing. I think someone put up a meme, actually, something to do with like Clair Obscur being like Final Fantasy with Game of Thrones, which is not quite right. Don't go into it thinking that it's Final Fantasy and Game of Thrones. It's kind of just like a artistic French Final Fantasy with a, dare I say it, almost Dark Souls-esque turn-based battle system, if there could be such a thing. So one of the enemies, I guess I need to go back to the battle system as well. So you can either choose to dodge, parry, and then there's some situational ones where you have to avoid an attack by jumping or avoid an attack with a gradient counter. You get these as you go through the game. So if it's not something that is there immediately upon launching the game, you know why. Because, yeah, it comes through in context. So in theory, you can go through the whole game and do a no-hit run. Good luck. Good luck. One of the guys that you fight much later on does something like a 16, 17, 18 combo hit that is like the timings are just all over the place. I think that's probably the bit that makes it kind of like a Dark Souls-esque game, is like that timing element. I think it's fair to say that the bosses that I did lose to, only one that I lost consistently to until I beat, and that's the main super boss, was just to see, having seen the move first, so you kind of get a feel for one, if you're going to block or dodge, and then the other one, how you're going to block and what sort of timing and rhythm that needs. So you do pick it up fairly easy. I played the game on normal. I think there's story, easy, normal, hard, and then extreme. So normal was a good enough challenge up until I got to like the end game, because I'd already I got to level like 93 or 94 or something. There is an achievement for level 99, but I didn't really want to go and grind the remaining experience. I'm not really too fussed about achievements in games, to be fair. But, you know, still, they're interesting, and a lot of people do enjoy them, so I understand why they're in there. They sort of have to be nowadays. Yeah, I think I have covered everything. I don't know if I really need to cover the graphics. They're really nice, barring the facial bits. Animation's really nice. There are some platforming sections in the game, which is kind of like this game's interpretation of mini games. I don't rate them at all. I don't think the way it works, and one, because I'm not very good at it, and I think it's a good idea, but I'm not really sure the engine assets combo that they've gone for works perfectly for the full platforming array of challenges and things that were put in. Just me. Mileage may vary. I haven't really considered it as part of my overall conclusion at all. Kind of let it go. And I think if you make a game that's this good, there is space for me to be able to let things go. And I think that's probably a good time to get into the final part of this video, which is going to be the overall score and stuff. Mainly because I think I might be running out of puff a little bit, and we're over half an hour in. So it is time to wrap this up. So I got out my big games list, as you may know. I got about 503 games on there now that I have ranked mostly accurately. The top bit and the bottom bit are very well ranked. The middle bit, not so much. So I was looking through this list and I was trying to work out what do I put the title of my video? Is it like the best JRPG for the last 20 years? Yes, basically, pretty much. And that, unfortunately, then means I have to discount things like Child of Light, for one, and then Chained Echoes as well, which are very much JRPGs, realistically, in essence, in their own right. Child of Light, made by Ubisoft, a very good game. I have it very highly rated as well, but it is quite short, and it is made by Ubisoft, and absolutely deserved. Well, I'll say it did. I don't know. It deserved to be bigger, I think, than it was, in a way, if Ubisoft are going to put it out. But it was clearly just a project. And then we've got Chained Echoes that was made by literally one guy, and I think he's done a very good job. But and also the same thing, which actually I'll probably put Child of Light in that one. It's not like a big blockbuster JRPG. Here you go, enjoy, everybody. Whereas Clair, Obscur, Expedition 33 absolutely is that 100%. So yeah, I've kind of got it in the ballpark of, well, I have given it 95 out of 100. That is the best score I've given since 2023, which was Baldur's Gate 3. And then that's an RPG, not a JRPG. And then the next best, most recent JRPG is Child of Light, which I gave 93 to. 92, 93 for Child of Light. And then Chained Echoes was 91. But yeah, if we're looking at kind of anything around that like mid-90s, we've only got Final Fantasy X and Final Fantasy VII that are close to that. And then also, honorable mention, I already said it before, but Shin Megami Tensei 3, Lucifer's Call, that's a 92 on here, on my list as well. And Final Fantasy 8 is a 91. So that kind of gives you a bit of an idea of where the top JRPGs rank. Legend of Dragoon's on there as well. That's a 93 overall. So, release dates, Final Fantasy X was 2001. Legend of Dragoon was 2001. I think Final Fantasy X was actually 2002 for EU, but 2001 for the US. For Japan. So even looking at the 2002, it's definitely one of the best JRPGs for the last 25 years. And in a way, do I say it? I'm going to say it. In a way, it is the successor to Final Fantasy X. It is this is kind of the next Final Fantasy game. If you are a JRPG purist like I am, that is where it sits. And it's weird to think that when it's got these kind of like parrying, blocking, dodging elements to it as a turn-based battle system. but it just works really well. At the start, I didn't want to like it, shall I say, because of the purist element, I suppose. And I think it adds element, it adds tension, it adds difficulty as well to a battle system that can maybe feel, particularly when you get over the main hump, apart from super bosses and things, you very much have in control. Realistically, assuming you're facing enemies around your level in Expedition 33, you are never really necessarily really in control, which is great. Like I say, that is probably for me one of the big pluses that it gives. So yeah, so I've given it 95 out of 100, which, for reference, if you want to know, is half a point lower than Final Fantasy X. So we can split hairs, and things may change. The only difference is when I started my modifiers in and stuff, Expedition 33 does have cosmetic DLC, which is always going to knock a point off and whatnot. So it kind of just is. It is what it is. That's the folly of modern games, I suppose. I don't mind them selling soundtracks and that kind of thing, but yeah, like cosmetic DLC is, I don't know, just weird. Anyway, that's just part of the rules. Part of the rules for my list that I've made, and no one else has to abide by. And hopefully that tells you all you need to know about it. Yeah, I'm out. I'm out of things. I'm out of praise, really. I can't give it greater praise than that. I think, it's well within the top 10 of my... is that on top 10 of my list overall? Don't know. Let's have a look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, top 6. That's not even right. I've not even done that score correctly. Let's do it again. Where are we? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, yeah. So it's 6th. It's 6th overall. It's 4th in terms of JRPGs, and 6th in terms of RPGs, and 6th in terms of overall. So very rare that I get to do a video like this at a time when it comes out, because really, unless I'd have started doing these when obviously Baldur's Gate 3 was a really big one, wasn't really doing my full reviews like I'm doing now. But yeah, and prior to that, I would have, Bannerlord in 2020, and then before that, you look in the early 2010s, really, before you get a game that hits that same kind of highlights. So yeah, I think for me, it's a monumental video, I suppose, and one that I can point to and say, wow, that was the last time really great game came out, probably, or JRPG anyway. So yeah, I'm just taking the moment to savor that, I suppose. And there was something else I was going to say, but it's gone. So I'm going to leave it there. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Do let me know if you've played it, what you thought. Genuinely interested. And if you're going to go and play it, I hope you enjoy. Genuinely hope you enjoy it, because if this is your type of game that you enjoy playing, you will have an absolute blast. I'm convinced about it. And let's see if it's just thunder in a bottle, or whether Sunfall can go and make something else. But I've got very high hopes, and you know how sometimes there are key moments within the trajectory of where video games are going. Is there a chance? I know I felt it wanted to feel it with like Child of Light, for example, that might move RPGs more over towards that style, but obviously not big enough success to do so. If this game's a big enough success, will that move Square Enix's Final Fantasy over back to more towards Squaresoft's Final Fantasies? Lots of sounds. But yeah, don't know. We will see. Fingers crossed. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.